Welcome, everyone. We're going to be starting the Investing in Cannabis panel. We've got two panelists up here on stage with us today. We've got Jeff Thompson from Alberta's Sundial and Cheryl Schumann from Investor Intel. We'll get your mic hot in a moment. And so what we're hoping to do with this panel is talk about what people need to know about investing in the cannabis space, both obviously in Alberta, in Canada, and also understanding the international space and how that relates to Canada. And so first I'm going to have our panelists just introduce themselves, and then we're going to segue into a conversation that dives into the different questions from the audience and the type of investors we have in the audience and the sorts of questions and knowledge that people need to look into to invest into this space. So Jeff, if you can introduce yourself first, and then we'll move over to Cheryl.
Hello, my name is Jeff Thompson. I'm the president of Sundial Growers. The simple points for us, we've raised now over the last 18 months about $18 million in private placements through friends and family and institutional investors. The $11 million streaming deal, and then we just closed a $55 million facility with ATV. We did that all without using a broker. So that was based on our own management team going out and telling our story and having interested parties invest in us.
Hi, can you hear me now? How many people can hear in this room, and how many are you looking to invest your money, or are you looking to have someone driving? How many of you are actually interested in investing? Okay, so a significant number. Okay, my name is Cheryl Schumann. I have been in the cannabis industry since 1992. That's a long time. And you have to understand, I refer to the cannabis industry very similar to a real-life version of Boardwalk Empire. So, but instead of the prohibition of alcohol, we are dealing with the wild, wild west. And quite frankly, back in 1992, when I first got involved, it was almost all men. They did not like a Beverly Hills lady coming in and telling them how to do their business and how we need to legalize and tax and regulate and start this as a real business. You know, a lot of them had been family generational farmers. One of the things that I learned as I started looking into the industry was the history of the plant and how valuable it is, not only as a healing plant, but the revenue and the investment dollars that you can make off of the cannabis sector if you know what you're doing are the things that make billionaires, like Mark Zuckerberg and some of the Silicon Valley people. So I became an expert in this, and now I report with Investor Intel specifically on the cannabis industry and take you basically behind the scenes of the companies themselves, their teams, their scientists, their facilities, and also their patient stories.
So we were speaking beforehand about some of the questions we'd like to cover in this, and I think it's interesting that people have been following the cannabis stock market. Obviously, a lot of big headlines in the last 6 months or so with stocks really climbing. There are some people who started investing much earlier than that, but we have a lot of people just looking to get into this. And so I'm curious what advice both of you can give to the sort of peripheral consumer investor, someone who's looking to get into this industry, doesn't know anything about the stock market in general, much less medical cannabis in Canada and the global cannabis industry.
So in Canada, you have a process that Health Canada approves, and you have to become a licensed cannabis producer, or something called an LP. There probably are going to be about 100 companies across the country that will become licensed producers by the time legalization happens. So you'll have large organizations like Canopy and Aurora that are well known, and you're going to have startup operations that will be very small. And you'll see share prices that may range from cents per share to many dollars per share. You'll have a public market environment for licensed producers, and you have a private market. So if you're interested in investing in a large public company, firstly you should do your homework, and predominantly you're going to run across two things. One will be a promotional play, and one will be a real business play. The promotional play is one where they have a hope and dream to build something, and there's a whole bunch of gaps between the story and the actual execution. And you have to do your homework and due diligence to find out which of those promotional plays actually have the ability to actually execute on what their proposition is. Then you have companies that are building a real business, and those companies will have strong business plans. They'll have the ability to show you how they're going to execute. What you should be also looking at is the number of shares that are outstanding in the company. Most of the companies that have gone public early have had to provide low share cost offerings in a sense, and then offer a warrant to go with it. And it's not uncommon that they may have 100+ million shares outstanding. You have some companies today operating in over 500 million shares outstanding. You have other companies that have done a much better job of managing their share capital, and so when you look at the analysis, you have to look at what is the projected enterprise value calculation for a company, and then how does that benchmark in the marketplace to companies that are public companies. And that will tell you, is the company overvalued or undervalued? But mostly you have to get sound investment advice from your broker, and you have to find a broker that actually follows and understands the cannabis sector. After that, you then have to believe that the promoter or the company is telling you an honest story of what they're doing, and from that you then make your investment decision.
I'm going to address this more on an international level because USA is my home. I do a lot in Canada, but I also work in Israel and Germany and Spain and Australia and New Zealand and all of the other countries that are coming on board. So because I do a lot of television in different markets, I feel that that's very important to educate the audience as far as what is this industry. A lot of people, all they hear is this is the green rush. It's like the gold rush only with pot. And they'll call and they'll say, tell me what to invest in. And I have to ask them, what kind of investor are you? Are you a legacy investor that has saved your money your whole life? You're a multi-millionaire, you're 92 years old, and back in the 60s you wanted to see marijuana legal? That's a legacy investor. That's a guy that's willing to lose it all for the sake of the plant and to leave a legacy behind when he dies. And that's very, very common. You have people like Richard Branson, right? He's the kind of person that would be a legacy investor. Then you have the opposite extreme where you've got college kids that they've learned about the penny stocks, and they all hear about these penny stocks, and you can get rich overnight, and if you learn how to play it and flip it, and the problem is though, there aren't a lot of ethical companies, and a lot of times people just start a story on a thread on like Investor Hub or Investor Hangout or something like that, and it could be completely false because most of those chat rooms are full of shorters and flippers and pump and dumpers. So when you're looking at this from a stock standpoint, whether it be a penny stock or a quote-unquote real stock that is a real company, as he had said, you want to make sure to, no matter what, trust but verify. I mean, you want to try to believe the people that you are looking into investing in, right? You wouldn't invest in anyone unless you wouldn't go to a doctor without making sure that they had their surgical license, right? No one's going to cut your liver open if they aren't qualified. You want to know who their people are, because it's really what you're investing in. No matter what the investment, you're investing in the team behind the company. And it has to be something that you also are very, very passionate about. And that's why you have to ask yourself, am I in this purely speculative just to make money? Is that my only mission? Or am I also interested in technology? And I'm going to build the best vaporizer that the world has ever known. Or you're a software designer or something, and just like we just raised the money for Ease, which is kind of like Uber for pot. And the great thing about some of those businesses, whether it be a vaporizer or a software service or technology or whatever, is they don't actually touch the plant. So it helps you determine what level of risk that you're willing to do. If you're willing to go for something that could be really high risk, where you're not sure if it's going to go or not go, if they don't raise a full $500,000, they can't get their prototype done, and you go in and get in early and you turn that investor in a year later, it's worth $1 million instead of $500 or whatever that issue is. So you have to decide what level of risk. The general rule of thumb, and again, keep in mind, this is for the US, for Israel, Europe, Australia, etc. The US is still very much the wild, wild west. Almost anything goes. There's a lot of insanity. The biggest problem is conflict between federal and state law, right? So because of that, and because there is that conflict, and because Senator Jeff Sessions and Mr. Trump have rescinded the Cole memo, puts everyone in danger. That means at any moment the feds can break it down and take every single thing that you have because of asset forfeiture. Because the way our laws are, you lose everything, and so does all your family and your loved ones, and you're done. You're completely done. So the other thing that's different about the U.S. market, you may have a kid that's in college and says, hey, I need $20,000 to do my first grow, right? You can take that $20,000 investment with a young farmer or a Vietnam War veteran, and literally when they flip their harvest, I remember the very first grow that I did, I'm actually a grower, I'm a cancer survivor. The very first grow I did, I had about $68,000, and I was all in, because the doctor said I was gonna die, right? I was like, okay, I've got 4 months, might as well put it all into a pot farm, why not, right? And what ended up happening is I called all my friends, I worked with a lot of celebrities, and everyone heard I was dying, right? So I called my friend Dory, she's a casting director. She goes, oh my God, I thought you were dead. And I said, well, I'm not dead, and I've got a pot farm. Do you know the best way to get publicity about anything that you're doing is tell everybody. Don't tell a single person. This is a secret. No one can know. Within 24 hours, I had the lead as a marijuana expert on 7 feature films, all A-listers, all of my friends, like Brad Pitt and George Clooney, all the people that I've worked with for over 20, 30 years. It was funny because it would always be, oh, hey, yeah, I heard you have cancer. That really sucks. But I heard you have a pot farm, and we would love to come up and check it out and do a retreat. So we do a lot of resorts and that level of experience. That's one of the biggest problems, no matter what market you're in, is consumption areas. Okay, you can consume it sometimes in your own home, but not necessarily. If you're in a rental and that smell goes through the facility, your landlord's going to be knocking on your door, and so are your neighbors. And the next thing, the cops are going to come, and you've got a very big problem. So finding really great properties for vape cafes, internet cafes, even fine dining. My dream is to see cannabis treated with the same respect that a glass of wine would have, with a dinner, right there, a little vape pen. And you know what, ladies, no calories, right? No hangovers, and it works much better. That's my speech.
Jeff, I want to ask you about a term that Cheryl used. She referred to pumpers or shorters. And I'm curious if you could expand on that a little bit. I think that's something that we do see a lot in the cannabis space. You had mentioned Invest Hub. I know there's several other forums where there's often narratives painted to make companies seem a lot better, to really play up a certain press release. And I think that you have a lot of newer consumer investors coming in who can potentially be taken for a ride by that. So what are some things that people can look out for to pay attention to, red flags to look out for potentially?
That's a loaded question, and I'm not going to say anything negative about any of the other licensed producers. I just, when you invest in the public markets, I invest in cannabis in public markets, and my TFSA has gone up as much as 400% over the last year, and then it came back down 200%. I've seen some companies that got a little greedy, and their shareholder value went down 70% in a matter of about a month. So you have scenarios where you're making a risk-based decision. It's always fun being the straight man when you've got someone like Cheryl here. I mean, I just get to sit here and listen to her fun story. You have to be very careful to understand that you're investing in a high-risk investment. Everything in cannabis is a high-risk investment. The federal government has proposed that they're going to make cannabis legal sometime this summer. What happens if they don't? You put your money into an investment that you're betting that a certain regulatory event is going to happen. That's point number one. Second, these facilities that are being built are hugely capital intensive. So we're going to spend on our Olds facility $110 million. And we're taking shareholder money in at $25,000 a pop, yeah, or more. So you're putting your investment in, trusting that the management can actually go out and raise all the money necessary to build out the facility that they're going to build. There's only so much risk capital in the marketplace that's going to go into cannabis. There's a lot of people who say that cannabis doesn't meet their moral reasons for investing. There's some people that just don't have the money. There's some people that want liquidity and so won't invest in a private company. Mostly you have to make the bet that you're going to put your money aside if you're investing in a private company and let the management team meet their obligations that they've committed to you that they're going to meet. On the public company side, I would advise you strongly to get on newsletters that give you daily market information, because this industry changes on a daily basis. Okay? In our industry, we say that the industry changes weekly. So every week there is something new that happens in the public markets, and then the public companies have to respond to what the other companies are doing. And in some cases they make good decisions that make high value, and in other cases they're just buying market share. So just make sure you give good advice, that's all I'm saying.
Cheryl, you referred to shorters. Can you explain to people what you're talking about there?
I have to admit something. I made mistakes when I first started investing. And I'm embarrassed to say that, you know, I always had a private wealth manager that managed my money. I've always been good at making money, horrible at keeping it. You know, I'm the kind of person that gives money away to everybody. Oh, you need something, I'll take care of you. So anyway, when I entered the cannabis space in 1992, I started doing the research, and when you look back and see that it's been legal for thousands of years, and in the 1930s was prescribed for more illnesses than all of the pharmaceuticals combined at that time. And you realize that also in the 1930s, there was a woman by the name of Pauline Sabin, who was the heiress to the Norton Salt fortune, and she and a small team of women, ladies, women are the secret in this, 87% of all household decisions are made by the women. They're the strongest influence in public policy, and that's why, you know, they got to start hearing us roar, because we have the power to totally change the dynamic of this game. And it's basically, in the 1930s, they demonized cannabis, started calling it marijuana, and making reefer madness movies, because we all know that if you're going to use cannabis, you're going to start raping women, which is just insane. But when I first started investing in the stock market in cannabis, there were literally only a handful, I think of 10 to 15 companies. Not one of them was a public reporting company. They had no audited financials, they had no real team, and it's like you didn't know what you were really investing in until you got burned. And then you start to realize the patterns. What they'll do, it's almost like a boiler room type of situation. And they trade and they work with stocks in a group. And almost all of them are also hooked up to live Twitter feeds. And they can feed that stock symbol through that. Buy this now, and the stock symbol, right? And they all go in and buy, so they pump it up. And then they get the signal to their other shorts and flippers, and they're like, sell! Boom. And then the people who were in on it make big money. All the other people will lose. So it's very, very important to educate yourself. So when you're looking through it, if you are looking in the penny stock world, the most important thing, I believe, no matter what kind of stock it is you invest in great leaders and you invest in great companies. Because you want to have, again, something that you believe in, that you're working together as a team to build something that's historic. Literally, as we're sitting here, we are literally making history. The cannabis industry itself right now in the USA is estimated to be a $47 billion industry. And guess what? Canada just took over the leader, because you guys can invest anywhere. You can come down with Canadian dollars and buy companies in the US that are great brands that their value has plummeted because President Trump and Sessions rescinded the Coleman, which means it's high risk. They could go down at any moment. And these stock shorters, they will play that also, especially when they're publicly traded companies. So watch what's happening, be very careful where you get your information, and just like the gentleman said, you know, subscribe to legitimate news sources. And again, trust but verify, and learn who the people are behind the companies, and make sure that they're ethical. I mean, even go look at their social media page. You can tell, come on, if someone's a dog lover, come on, you know? But I also believe very much so in investing in women. Women are the fastest growing sector in this business. We've always, stereotypically been the caregivers and the love elements of our family nucleus. And I would say, more importantly here is, as you leave the room today, I want you to think about something. The cannabis industry, specifically in this market, will never be this small again. This is a moment in time. You're here, and you're here for a reason. So I'm going to give you some really great advice. Network, network, network. Look at the person to the right, look at the person to the left, introduce yourself, exchange business cards, because you know you're all like-minded, you know that you're all interested in investing. Start getting together your own investor club. Pool your money together, invest in really great companies. And then, Canada, invest in Israel, invest in the US, invest in Australia, and all these other markets. Canada will continue to dominate where we go on an international level. And that, my friends, is one of the most exciting elements in international history, and we're witnessing it right now. And I'm really super proud of you guys.
Jeff, two pieces of homework that you would suggest anyone who's looking to invest in a Canadian cannabis stock that's publicly traded. Two aspects of homework that they should do before they do anything else.
The first is, we've said this over and over again today, and that's people. You're looking at the management team of the organization, and you are assessing their ability to actually create the investment opportunity that they projected, and they can execute upon it, and they've figured out how they're going to differentiate their company. There's going to be 100 of us in Canada that offer this service, offer products. And what's going to make the successful company? There's going to be consolidation in this industry. It's already started. The consolidation, the investment that was made in Canopy was the first that happened in the industry. The large players have not come into the industry today. The large beer companies, the large cigarette companies, the large pharma companies haven't come in, but they're going to invest in those organizations that have the best brands and the best management team. The second thing that you have to do is you have to make a risk-based decision based on your own individual assessment. That's what Cheryl talked about. So you're making a decision on what are you going to be satisfied with in terms of the investment proposition. And you have to then be patient for that to happen. This industry, it's interesting. I have a stock index that I keep and I look at every day. The stock index has 3 oil and gas companies, 3 oil and gas service companies, and 10 cannabis companies. The oil and gas companies have not moved a dime in the last year. They've gone up 5%, they've gone down 5%, it's all the same. The cannabis companies have gone up as much as 400% in the last year, and they fluctuate. But you have to make that decision. Are you going to invest in a Trans-Canada stock, or are you going to invest in a Canopy stock, or a Sunbelt stock, or whatever? And the return opportunity, I've been in 6, this is my 7th company, I've built 6 companies up till now. I've never come across an opportunity in our lifetime similar to this, that people make an awful lot of money in cannabis, but you have to invest in the right teams and the right company. So your research exercise is to figure out who you're going to bet on as a management team and which companies you're going to bet on are going to execute to become one of the best. Sundial is going to be one of those companies that are going to be one of the best.
I just want to add also, read the regulations, read the proposed regulations, know what the government is proposing. It's amazing to me when some of the claims that are made that can be very easily fact-checked so people can inform themselves by just understanding what the regulatory regime is going to look like.
Want to speak on that? In Canada, you're going to have a federally licensed producer set of regulations, and then you're going to have 10 provinces where each province is going to set their distribution rules differently. So in BC, as an example, it's a hybrid model where there's rules associated for government liquor stores and then for other dispensaries and stores. An example of that rule is that the company cannot own both a manufacturing facility and have operations of a retail facility. So there's lobbying going on now, specifically after the Aurora acquisition of Liquor Stores North America. So a bunch of money was spent, $100 million was spent to make that investment. Unfortunately, the BC rules came out after Aurora made that investment. So now there's lobbying going on to change the rules. You have to actually look at the distribution rules for each province and where the company is investing in and make sure that the company can actually that they'll actually benefit from the investment they make. That's an example of the rules have not been formalized on the distribution side across the country by province, and they'll be different by province. So you have to look at where the operations of the company are going to be and what the distribution rules are for that province that they're engaged in.
We've probably got 5 minutes left. We're just going to open up the floor and some questions. Does anyone here have any questions? I know someone's itching to ask a question. There.
Hi there, Lindsay Burns, your actress. I'm wondering, Cheryl, could you speak more about why women are the secret weapon in this industry and how we're going to change the industry by making sure that women are part of it?
Absolutely. So, as I said, when I first got into this, it was very much still a criminal enterprise, right? And when you think about how influential women are, period, I mean, there's a saying that says, a happy wife is a happy life. Boys, you know what I'm talking about. So if the woman is happy in the house, and they're happy with what they're doing, they have the ability to be tremendous influencers. And it's really influence is what we're looking for. So one of the things that I did is I started a mentoring program. And you have to understand, back in 1992, even up to the present day, there really aren't colleges like Yale or Harvard that you can go to get a degree in cannabis of anything. So the best way that you can learn is being an apprentice or an intern or a mentee of someone that you admire. And that's what I did. I started matching up really great women, teaching them, getting them through the process, whether they wanted to be a grower or an extraction artist or a lab tech or just a real estate investor, and take them along the way. And one of the things that I found is some of the best investments that I made were investing in some of those women personally, to empower them that they know that they've got the confidence and they've got the money behind them because they've got someone who's going to believe in them and take them to the promised land of getting that company up and running. And I would say network, network, network. Another thing that is very, very important. Women have an extremely active role in politics. Get involved in politics on a local, provincial, state, country level and stay active. You know, mix and mingle. If you're a parent of a child with autism, get active with the autism community. If you're a patient that has PTSD and phantom limb pain, network with veterans and help them get their resolve as well. But it's really about working with people and just being there for them. And I always say, people say, what do you do? And I'm like, I make things happen. What do you need? And that's what
I could just comment. We went to the LIFT conference in Vancouver about a month ago. 3,000 people came through our booth. 70% of them were women. The influences you'll have on brand and purchasing decisions are tremendous. We're building out a health and wellness company as opposed to a lifestyle company. So we don't say buy our cannabis to get stoned. We say buy our cannabis because of the experience that you're looking for. So you're going to have a huge influence on which brands are successful because of the buying power that you have. The second example I give you is a young lady that works for us, and I don't want to embarrass her. All I'll say is that she came to us as a vet technician and said, give me an opportunity. I'm a smart person, put me to work and I'll show you what I can do. She's one of the most promising young people we have in the company. Fabulous woman. So we're looking for people that just says, give me a chance. And let us prove what you can do.
I was just going to add a little bit to that. You know, some people think that they can't start a company because they don't have money.
And I just want you to know that our value as human beings has nothing to do with dollar signs. It has nothing to do with the amount of money that you have in the bank. It has to do with your character and your integrity and your honor and what kind of a person you are. And I believe in the rule of karma, and I believe that if you work hard and you have a dream and you persevere against all odds, I believe that everything and anything is possible. And I can tell you that because I know for a fact. 10 years ago, I was in hospice care dying, hooked up to an intravenous morphine pump with 27 pharmaceuticals. And I found out about cannabis specifically for cancer, and I volunteered to be a guinea pig in Israel with Dr. Raphael and Shulam, and it saved my life. And when you have one of those epiphanies, I made a deal with the big guy or the lady upstairs. I'm still not sure who's up there, but somebody's been listening because it's really been working. And I have to say, in this industry, I've met some of the most amazing, valuable human beings strictly on their character, and that's what you have to look for.
Question for Jeff at Sundial. Hi Jeff. I understand that when you started up, you purchased an MMPR, sorry. And I just wanted to know if that was a good investment for Sundial, and in the future, if you'd be looking for any future investments in LPs that will be starting up as craft businesses.
So in this industry, you'll find, I'm going to answer you generally and then I'm going to give you some specifics. In the industry, there are organizations that will basically come to you and want to buy your stream. They'll give you financing, but you're going to work to their terms and you're going to be a wholesale grower. There are other initiatives that people will come and help you set up your operation, provide you genetics, help you provide you SOPs. And the government's going to set up a micro-grow facility where you're allowed to grow and then sell through a licensed producer. So you're going to find that you're either going to be working to a commoditized work environment under someone's terms, and you're not going to make very much money on that, and they're going to take all your product and they're going to make all the money for you. Alternatively, there's a collaborative initiative that's out there that if you can find parties that will provide you with genetics, provide you with the SOPs, the training, and let you run your own asset, and then you're working collaboratively through them, but on a much more balanced environment, that's what you're looking for. Okay? So there are both out in the marketplace. We offer the latter scenario. We're creating a micro-grow process to work with small growers and to help. Okay? We did that because we came across a number of firms that tried to take advantage of us as we were building out our firm. We asked them to go away politely, maybe not so politely, but there's an opportunity here. This is a much bigger industry that we need to work together to help build out the industry because we're at the infancy and it's a very large market, and we want to make sure that we can help others because some people helped us along the way.
I wanted to just add something on investing in general. You talked about sources of information. I'm very, very proud to say that I am working as a marijuana expert and investor expert for Investor Intel. They've been around forever. Write it down. You should follow us on there. And one of the things that we're going to be doing as part of my contract is literally, I'm going to go in and I'm going to check these people out for you. I'm going to go check out their operation. I'm going to go meet their teams. I'm going to interview them, and you're going to know everything about them, including what they had for breakfast that day. And you're going to find that you're going to get to know these people, and that's the way you've got to do it. So I'm very, very proud to not only be working in the cannabis sector, but also big agriculture. And that's what this is now. It is big agriculture. It's no longer 6 plants in your, father's basement. But find me on Investor Intel. I would love to meet you in person. If you have specific questions about a specific company that you want to learn more about, I will go find them. I will introduce you to them, and we will check them out together. And getting a reliable source of information is really key. And I want to say it's a pleasure to be on the panel with you. I've heard so many amazing things about your company, and it's been really great to watch Canada grow. So.
I enjoy being your stranger. Any other questions?
Yeah, we've been licensed in the MMAR system since 2013. Over the past 2 years, we've developed an extensive sustainable product line, and we're looking for potential investors to take us to the next level. you suggest any avenues for people to live some of that?
That's an answer. I couldn't hear everything, but I think you asked if we could help you find investors. But if that was your question, I think that's a discussion we should have offline.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, that is all the time we have, but let's give a round of applause for our panel.